All right, today I want to talk about states. With robotic affirming, we are trying to hold a state of completion. What is a state? It's just an inner vibration. It's how you mentally think, how you outwardly vibrate, your emotions, everything goes into a state. When you're robotically affirming for a manifestation, you need to define a certain state you want to be in. Everything is a state. Imagine if you want a goal, and the only way to get that goal is to hold a certain vibrational state. The longer you can stay in that state, the more likely your goal is going to come into play. Now, since everything is a state is not a method. We use methods like robotic affirming to make sure we stay in a certain state. That's what we need to clarify here. We are clarifying our state through affirmations. We are telling our mind this is how we need to think, this is who we need to be. Now, guys, remember, in order to get your affirmation, to get your manifestation, you need to hold that end state. How do you hold the end state if you don't know what it is? The first step to any manifestation should be a definition. You need to define that end state. Who are you at the end of your goal? No matter what you want. Do you want to be wealthy? Do you want to have a certain someone in your life? How would that person react to situations? How would that person feel emotionally or think mentally? Those are the two most important things. When you start affirming for wealth, what happens is through robotic affirmation, I affirm for wealth. I start thinking about wealth opportunities. My mind starts behaving in a way that would highlight wealthy things to do. Maybe saving more money, putting more money to business ventures or investments, or taking opportunities as they come. But that comes through being in a state of wealth. You can stay in a state of wealth longer through affirmations and methods. What happens normally is states are very fluid. You go in and out. You'll be in a state of wealth and you can go into a state of lack and depression, especially when you start using methods for the first time and you have a lot of mental blockers. There are negative cycles that you have to combat. There's no ifs, ands, questions, and buts. The left side of your brain just does left side brain stuff. You're going to start thinking, oh, I'm unlucky, or I'm not like that. I don't deserve this, or how can I make that much money? It does not discriminate anyone. Everyone has these thoughts. That's just how the left side brain works. You can see it in everyday action. If you tell someone about a big plan you have, or a big business idea, or a big goal, they normally come up with negative reactions. If you tell someone you're going to make $100,000 a month, they're going to say, oh, that's not going to make $100,000 a month. How can you do that? What if this goes wrong? What if this happens? What if this happens? How can you have the time to do this? It's all negative reactions. And that's how everyone works, including yourself. So we need to combat those thoughts because they kick you back into a negative cycle. When you're doing methods to hold a state, you want to hold a positive mental cycle, a positive state. And you will have these negative thoughts come up, like I'm unlucky. When you have that thought, I'm unlucky, come up, or this is not meant for me, you need to combat it with a canned response like, I'm so lucky, everything always works for me. If you can combat these negative thoughts, it'll break that cycle from kicking you into a negative state. Because states are very, very, very fluid. More people move in and out of states throughout days, weeks, certain time periods. It just happens like that. In order to hold your state, you need to combat the negative thought patterns with canned responses. States are like locations. You can live in a wealthy state, but just as you're living in that wealthy state of being, you can get kicked out and pushed into a negative state. You don't want to get kicked out and get pushed into a negative state. You need to hold a certain mental mind frame, and you need to combat your negative left brain. It's all about assumption. If you can use robotic affirmations being, I make $100,000 a month. I'm so blessed. I make $100,000 a month. $100,000 gets put into my bank account every month, etc., etc. Any kind of robotic affirmations. Sometimes, if you're not vigilant enough, you can have a negative thought pattern kick you out of the state you're trying to hold. All you have to do is combat it by telling it, no, I'm lucky. This is meant for me. This is so easy. It's meant for me. It's very easy to kick negative thought patterns. You just have to be sure to recognize them as they come up and don't let them eat at you. Especially if you're doing robotic affirmations and you're trying to get a manifestation and you've been struggling. Over time, as time goes on, more negative thought patterns will come in, because that's what happens. When you're waiting for something for X amount of time, you start getting worried or anticipating or anxious, and you start worrying more, and your left side brain starts taking over. All you have to do is kick it out of your head. Now, step one, identify the state, the end goal that you want. Let's say it's $100,000 a month, or $10,000 a month, or $5,000 a month. Identify that person. What do you have to be thinking about? Do you have a specific thing you are doing to make that, or do you just know vaguely of what you want to start learning or doing to make that? You need to start thinking like that person. If I know my end goal, my end person is going to be someone who owns multiple businesses, or is making revenue online, or is doing X, Y, and Z, then I need to start thinking like that person. How does that person think? He wants to learn about these things, or how to market this, or how to invest in this business, or this cryptocurrency, or this stock, or things like that. I need to start thinking on that wealthy pattern. Not only thinking, that's only a third of the equation. You have to also feel. How does that person feel? He is very excited to learn about these things. He's very enthusiastic, and he's very, 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 very positive about learning these things, because he knows it's going to pay him well. That's how I want to feel. So I need to hold that feeling and also think like that. Now, how does that person talk? How does that person physically vibrate out into the world? He talks about money. He talks about investments. He talks to his loved ones like he's wealthy. Even if you're the opposite of wealthy, you need to hold the state as if you are already wealthy. When you craft that state, you can begin crafting better affirmations. Like, money flows to me effortlessly. I am in the best relationship of my life. Whatever the manifestation is, when you can craft the state, the affirmations come easier because you believe it more. Then you can actually utilize the time you put into these affirmations, these robotic affirmations, because you're going to be saying it with more belief. If you can identify the state you want to be in and hold that state, the affirmations become more believable, and your brain, your subconscious, just takes them in more. No matter what anyone tells you, people tell you to ignore or just assume. Yes, you want to assume. But to make it easier for your brain to assume wealth, you need to deny negative concepts from entering your brain and fill it with more positive concepts. So if you're practicing wealth, you need to start talking about wealth, start thinking about wealth, start feeling wealthy, start actually being enthusiastic and happy to learn stuff. Even if you're not seeing any results, you want to learn how to be wealthy and what to do to get more money, or what investment strategies to take, or what to do if you had a lot of money. You need to start thinking 10 steps ahead. If I had $1 million in the bank account, what would I do with that $1 million? I'm going to start spending it like this. I'll buy this house, I buy this car. I want to invest it like this. That's how wealthy people would think. You want to start thinking how to use the wealth. You need to be a step above where you're at right now, because if you're only thinking about getting the money, you're always going to be manifesting the struggle of trying to get that money. You need to live in a state where you already have that money. That's just how it needs to be. And if I live in that state where I have the money, I need to start thinking about how to spend it, how to invest it, where to hold it, what's the best returns, all of those. It works for any manifestation. If you're trying to manifest a love life, if you're trying to manifest a specific person, you want to start thinking about where to go on dates. When should I plan a vacation with this person? When should I propose? You need to start thinking 10 steps ahead. You need to stop thinking about getting a phone call or just beginning to talk about that person. You need to start thinking about the next 10 steps and living the steps ahead. Live in the state where you're thinking about those things, because then you'll be there when you start thinking about that, because you're living in that state. You already assume that you're in that state, you're going to be in that state, and that person is going to come to you, and you're going to have to start thinking about those 10 questions ahead anyway. So start thinking about it now. And then when you're in that place, you need to start thinking 10 steps ahead, because you're manifesting the next thing. That's how it works when it comes to manifesting. It's very, very back to the futurist. You need to start thinking about the future and living in the future. Stop trying to think about manifesting the thing, because you're only going to be manifesting the struggle of manifesting. It's very, very simple. You don't need to do any shadow work when you're manifesting. A lot of people talk about shadow work when it comes to reducing blockages or getting around negative beliefs. If you're manifesting, if you're physically trying to get a goal, you're trying to get a goal. Leave the shadow work for when you're taking a break from manifesting, taking a break from using your methods like robotic affirmation. Start trying to assume a state where you already have your goal and you're trying to figure out what to do with it, because that is what you're trying to manifest. You're manifesting that person who lives 10 steps ahead. There's not much more I would like to say about this. I kind of want to clarify what a state is before we end the video. I know states are not a method. You don't have to treat them like a method. It's just something you have to identify, define, and live in. It's something that reflects your internal beliefs, your assumptions, and your habitual thoughts. So if you can hold a state, you'll have better internal beliefs, better assumptions, and better habitual thoughts. It's very easy to look ahead, plan for the future, find that person 10 steps ahead of you, that person that you are 10 steps ahead, and start living in that state. So you'll have his internal beliefs, his assumptions, his habitual thoughts. Now that person will be in a better position to manifest what you actually want. You're trying to embody the successful state, and you need to act accordingly to that person, because you're not the person here. You don't want to be the person that you are now. You want to be that person 10 steps ahead. The foundation of your experience here is what determines your circumstances in life. So you need to fill your head with the experience of that state, of that person 10 steps ahead. Think of it as a frequency you have to hold, a vibration you have to hold. We always talk about vibration and frequencies. We're not holding this vibration. I don't want to hold this vibration I am right now, because I want more. So I need to go into my future, identify the person I want to be, and hold that frequency. It's very, very simple. Identify what you need to think about, what you need to act like, what you need to feel emotionally, and start doing that now. It's going to be ever changing, because once you start doing it correctly, your manifestations come faster. Your robotic affirmations and methods, whatever methods you're using, works faster. And then you're going to have to start planning and planning and planning. This is what's going to speed up your manifestations drastically. If you're having trouble right now, if you're having trouble and you're struggling with getting something and you're feeling a lot of blockages, this is how you skip the shadow work of the negative beliefs. You attack the negative beliefs as they come up, and you force them out of your head, and you live in a state where those negative beliefs don't matter, because you're thinking habitual thoughts that don't even align with the negative beliefs. And then new negative beliefs will have to come up, because you're thinking ahead. You're thinking where you already have the thing. You're assuming that you already have the SP, have the $100,000, have the $1 million. So why would you ever have a negative belief around $1 million if you already have it? You have to live in the state where you assume everything is already done. States are always very active. It's a struggle to hold a state, because they're so fluid. You can move in and out of them. That's why we use these methods. Robotic affirmations are very, very powerful at holding a state, because the way we design them, especially on this channel, we say them so often and so much and at such dense frequencies throughout the day, we end up living in a state where those affirmations make sense, where those affirmations are what puts us into that end goal state. So that's why I love affirmations. That's why I love robotic affirmations, especially. It's easier to hold a state when you're always telling yourself you already have that thing. But it will become more easy when you finally understand what you're trying to do. If you're saying robotic affirmations, they work. Yes, they will work without knowing anything. But if you actually know what you're actually doing is holding a state in the future, you can actually assume that future self is right here, right now. That's all it takes. Remember, guys, stay positive. I've been loving the likes, the comments, and everything. So if you guys have any questions, comment below. And what state are you going to choose today? The state you want to choose today is a state that future self is currently living in. You need to embody him right now. That's all. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one. Peace.